in 1978, I remember I was working in the front of the house and I was watching the NBA final, and the Sonics lost in the 7th game and they were at home. And about 5 minutes after the game ended, I got a call from Zolly Volchuk, who was a general manager of the Sonics. We knew him. He had come down here many times before, and he said, "We're all coming down. Get 3 bartenders. We're coming down in 10 minutes. Click." So all of the Sonics, they had just lost the 7th game, they came down here for dinner. My father, Abe, was one of the original co-owners of the Four Seas restaurant. He and my Uncle Wilbur and my grandfather, they built this place in 1962. And so we were really involved with it up until he sold it in 1988. Back then, people didn't really mix. They didn't go to the same restaurants. They didn't hang out at the same bars. We really had a kind of a segregated town. And the Four Seas was one of the first places where people from all different races, all different walks of life could come down and have a drink.
The interesting thing about 4C is that the age group was also diverse. You have people in the middle age at that time. Bob Santos, for example, would come in quite frequently. But we also have younger Americans like Silme Domingo, who's a famous Filipino American in the community, and he used to come here and drink also. What we call regular drinkers, like in the weekend, they would come, they might start at Four Seas, and then they would go down to Hong Kong, and then they would go to Sanya and do a circuit. Because each bar has slightly different clientele. And so sometimes you do the circuit, then you see pretty much most of your regular drinkers.
The Four Seas bar, the Dynasty Room, was a de facto clubhouse for politically involved people. Back in the 1960s, you could see Bob Santos and Bernie Whitebear in one corner, and in the other corner you could see Senator Warren Magnuson and his wife. And then in the other corner you could see a very young Norm and Constance Rice, the future mayor. But at that time they were young, on the rise politicians. The relationship between Chinatown, the International District, and the Kingdom was a really complex one. Many people in the ID were opposed to the Kingdom. And I had known from a business standpoint, they absolutely wanted more business to come through Chinatown and the International District. On the other hand, they knew that there would be parking nightmares, there would be pressures on the social services, there would be consequences of development that weren't necessarily desirable. And so my dad, I remember he was wearing a couple hats there. He wanted the business, definitely, and he was public about that. But I know that he talked with a number of the activists about some potential problems that come along with that. Do you want just kind of drive-by, people just coming by to have Chinese food and without caring about the people who actually live there?
It's easy to come now and see what's wrong and see the pressures and think this is new. But it's been the same struggle from the beginning, and it's the same struggle that Uncle Bob started when he saw what was happening way back in the early 70s. And the neighborhood's gonna look very different. Maybe not so much in 2 years, but in 5 years, 10 years. There are taller buildings proposed. The concern for me is that they will overshadow the neighborhood that we know and love today and push it out. If not like literally, then either economically with rising rents and rising property values, culturally with influx of new people, new businesses that might not address the traditional population here. So it's a scary, scary time. It's also a time for action. So community-based development, community control of land is key for addressing displacement and for helping the community to thrive into the future. So the interim's going to own the top floors, the residential portion of the building, and the Tran family is going to own the commercial. They're very much committed to uses that will make a contribution to the neighborhood. You know, I kind of assumed that everybody knows Uncle Bob and knows what he's done. But one thing, you know, as time goes on, people who did know him and worked with him were feeling like that this is on our shoulders, like to help people understand just who he was. You know, I keep talking about contributing to the neighborhood, sustaining the community, because we have this vibrant community that welcomes immigrants and refugees and culturally relevant businesses and services and a whole range of nonprofits. And, you know, I truly believe that this community would not be intact and strong the way it is without Uncle Bob's vision and commitment all these past decades. So this project is really coming from the heart.
The previous owners of the Four Seas and Dynasty Room are ready to move on, and they're waiting for development. And in that interim, it's going to be a year to 2 years out. They didn't want an abandoned building in this neighborhood, so they had asked me if I wanted to come in and run a bar. And so while we're here, it's not about how much money we can generate, because I do have other businesses that can pay the bills. It's about how to make the biggest impact in a short amount of time.
Coming in here, even in this modified form, it brings back incredible memories. And a lot of it's changed, but a lot of it's exactly the same. You walk in here and this fake leather on the bar is exactly the same as it was from the time I remember, for as long as I can remember.
I hope there's for the time that we're here, it's a lot shorter time, but we can create a new set of memories for a new generation of people for Dynasty Room.
In this day of technology, where we have the world in our hands, on our smartphones, I think people, as time goes on, people will yearn for more emotional connection in a physical space. My father would love this remodel because it makes people happy. I think this place connects with people, and isn't that what we're all looking for? Connection.